Meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Brian Smith. Here. Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the minutes from last month. Bill did call me with a correction to the first part of the minutes. I had Steve Jordan attending instead of Brian Smith, so I made that correction on my copy. Are there any other corrections to the minutes that anyone has been presented with? If not, entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make it. Second.
Motion on the floor to approve last month's regular minutes. Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
We do have special meeting minutes from the special meeting that was held on September 24th. Motion to approve those minutes as presented. Steve Jordan, for second.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to approve the special meeting minutes. Steve Jordan?
Yes.
Bryce Steiner?
Yes.
Brian Smith?
Yes.
Jason Franks?
Yes.
Bill Boylan?
Yes.
Dean Reister?
Abstain.
Okay, on the finance report, last month, everybody's had time to read it. Moving through it, no questions were submitted, so entertain a motion on the finance report.
I'll make a motion.
Bryce Steiner, for second, Bryce's motion.
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve the September finance report. Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith, Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Got two bills signed, one is for what you received and the other is bank reconciliation. Moving on, we'll open the floor up to the guest that has to be on the agenda. Right.
The mayor would like to introduce
Yeah.
council.
This time I'd like everybody to meet our new village solicitor, Brandon Grigsby. This is our group.
Hi, Brandon. Welcome aboard.
I think
Nice
most
to
of
meet
them
you, sir.
introduced before the meeting,
Yeah.
so.
Yep, I'm a Ohio Northern Law grad from 2023. Grew up in Columbus Grove, graduated from there. After I graduated from law school, went to New York City for a year, worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers as an international tax services consultant. Now I'm back here in Ottawa, Ohio, is where I work now with Hopkins Trader and Von Sasse. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
All right. This time we'll open the floor up to our guests, Ryan and Chris from Verano. And
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Ryan Ewing and my colleague here is Chris Vitopoulos. I'm Vice President of Retail Compliance at Verano Holdings Corp. And Chris here is the Executive Vice President of Real Estate and Risk, also at Verano. Verano is one of the largest cannabis companies in the United States. We have over 1 million square feet of cultivation space. We're active in 14 state markets. We have 152 dispensaries nationally, including over 5 in Ohio right now. So I wanted to make myself available along with Chris so we could introduce ourselves. You could put a face to a name. We could answer your questions. I'm sure that there are questions. But I'd like to just explain a couple things about what is not going to happen if we were to operate a dispensary out of the Antwerp train depot. First and foremost, you're not going to see any hot leaves or neon lights or billboards or anything that's marketing or advertising for adult use consumption. You're certainly not going to see anyone loitering on the property or consuming cannabis on site. That's currently illegal. It will remain illegal. We take those obligations very seriously, and we're very stringently regulated by the Department of Cannabis Control in Ohio. The state regulators take their obligations very seriously, and we very much recognize that it is a privilege and an opportunity to be before you today and to introduce ourselves and hopefully answer some of your questions and make ourselves available. Chris, would you like to say anything? Oh, thank you, sir. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but there's a couple things that hopefully will probably be of relevance to what we're discussing tonight. Like I mentioned, there's no loitering or consumption on the property. As Vice President of Retail Compliance, I'm personally responsible for the lawful operation of all 152 of our dispensaries. I take that obligation personally. It's very serious to us. As a company, we are at the level that we are because we take those obligations seriously. We pride ourselves in not cutting corners. And first and foremost, we are a medical cannabis company. Chris was part of Verano, has been part of Verano for over 10 years. We started as a small medical cannabis company in Illinois. We've expanded since then. All of our markets are always going to have a medical aspect to them. We take it very seriously, and we understand that at the end of the day, this is medicine and people do require access to it. It's very similar to a pharmacy, and I can speak substantively about everything that would go on in that facility, everything that goes on in any of our facilities in Ohio, and exactly how it would be regulated and maintained at all times. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions from the council, and thank you so much for your time.
Can you speak a little bit to the changes that the depot may go through during this process?
Sure. Do you mean externally, sir?
Yes, externally.
Externally. We are very cognizant and appreciative of the fact that the Antwerp Train Depot is a historic facility. We have every intention of making the minimum amount of physical or structural changes to the exterior of that facility. There will be no major modifications. For example, there is a requirement under Ohio state law right now where you have to have a dedicated delivery bay area. We've already talked to our regulator and received and have submitted for a variance request and approval under the new adult use rules to not have that delivery bay area. We are not going to install any additional structures to that site. We plan on keeping it exactly the way it is, but we are going to paint it, and the entrances and ingress and egress are all going to remain the same. So structural modifications will be to the absolute minimum. Interior, you'll see that, of course, the interior will be renovated. It will have entirely new electric and everything else because there's going to be an impressive amount of security and surveillance devices installed into that facility. All of the windows will be rendered with glass, with break-proof glass. They will all be tinted so you can't see in or out of them. Every single door to that facility will have access control to it. There will be a generator powering the facility in case of an emergency. So the security and access control will always remain operational. Our server rack, which is essentially the brain of our IT facility, that will be very stringently maintained in a separate, dedicated, locked, secure room that only 3 people, not even myself, have access to at any time because I don't require access to the Antwerp server rack. We take all of that very seriously. All of our product will be maintained and secured in a dedicated in-house vault that will be built inside of that facility. It'll have steel gauge wire mesh wrapped around our standard 16-inch posts. There will be access control, cameras, motion detectors, and redundant surveillance in every facet for ingress and egress, both in and out of that facility. But yes, I cannot stress it enough, there will be no pot leaves or anything that you see from a hemp dealer. We're a medical dispensary first and foremost. It would be more similar to a CVS or a Rite Aid. That's just very stringently locked and secured at all times.
Any members of council have any questions?
Yeah, I've got questions for you.
Yes, sir.
And I believe what you're saying. I mean, my issue is with this isn't with you guys at all. Do you own this dispensary in Sherwood? Do you own and operate the dispensary in Sherwood?
In Sherwood?
Yes.
No, they don't.
You do
No,
not?
sir.
No.
Okay.
No, we own the Zen Leaf dispensaries. That's our retail brand, sir.
Okay.
And then in Florida, our dispensary brand is known as Move.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how did you decide that that's the building you wanted?
How did I decide?
Yes. How did you come across that building?
Chris, would you like to answer that?
Sure. So we worked with a broker, a real estate broker, who scoured the entire state looking for certain sites, and that came up that it was a very interesting building, and we thought that what better way to enter into a town like this than to use a building of historical significance so that we can be a part of it. Because whenever we go into any kind of municipality, we want to make sure that we're not only a good steward to the license in which we operate under, but we want to be a good steward to the community as well. And we say that, and we actually mean that. We try to, help out as much as we possibly can, be woven within the fabric of the community. So it's a beautiful building, and like Ryan said, it's in great shape. We don't want to change the facade at all. We just want to, and it was available, and it's been available for quite some time.
Really?
Has it not been available for quite some time?
No.
Oh,
This is what I'm trying to figure out, how this got, because it seems to me somehow it was available, but we didn't know because this was our village offices this whole time.
So we're going to be a tenant. We're not buying the property. So this is from we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be the tenant.
Oh, okay,
So we're not the owners. We're not going to be the purchasers. So
okay.
That is
Zone properties.
zone properties.
yeah.
Okay. How
We're not
is your
the purchaser.
relationship then to zone properties? They're not selling it to you?
No,
Okay.
they're buying it. We're going to be the tenant.
Is anybody
Yeah,
from
lease-
zone
lease
properties here?
agreement.
Correct.
No.
They're in
Okay.
Arizona.
Okay. Excellent.
Any other questions?
No?
I think they answered my question as far as the outside of the structure and the integrity of the building and things like that. That's my experience with talking to people. That's the concerns that I heard, was some people was afraid it was gonna be tore down and rebuilt, and other people was afraid it was gonna be, a big advertisement billboard and things like that, but
Councilman, I appreciate the question. And just for some context, sir, I'm also responsible for all marketing throughout our entire company for all of our retail-facing arms. So I'm personally responsible for making sure that billboards are not put up anywhere around Antwerp, that the store is maintained with exactly to the level of what I'm telling you tonight in front of council. And I'll give you my business card, my personal cell phone number on it, because I don't mind putting myself out there and us being forthcoming, because we keep our promises. And like I said, we do not cut corners. We understand how important this is, that people are needing this for medicine, and we just do right by them. So, and we will do right by the council and by the people of Antwerp.
You're gonna need personnel to operate this. How many you're gonna need and where are you gonna get them?
Yes, sir. So thank you for the question. We were projecting internally right now that over a 5-year period, we're projecting about $6.3 million in local salaries and wages paid out over 5 years for operating that depot as a licensed dispensary in Ohio. That would require 20 to 26 employees, depending on how busy the store is, with rotating shifts, of course, for coverage. We always prioritize hiring locally, right? That's how we always pride ourselves. That's why we're one of my core functions of my role is to go to communities just like this throughout the country and meeting with local councils and meeting with people and how we can be better and just good members of the community, because we're going to be hiring people that are from this community. So to answer your question, sure, we would like to hire 20 to 25 Antwerp residents to work at our store. And you don't need a college degree to become a general manager there either, which is a good job. We promote from within very proudly, and we don't transfer, we wouldn't transfer people in from another store here. We like to build up, and that includes a full, just a full run of our in-house training, which is a 2-week classroom session, right, from our dedicated national training team, really trying to teach life skills. And then also they are transferable, because a lot of it is about inventory, right, really tight inventory and counting and maintaining, a lot of SOX compliance, financial reporting. All of these things are taught on site, which are transferable skills long term.
Okay, now you mentioned rotating shifts. What hours normally do you run? Will it be open?
So that's actually so we are usually open, I would say. Well, it's really specific to the community as to what's permitted or what would be preferred by the municipality. But I would say as a general answer, we are open for typical pharmacy hours. Before work and after work are usually our busiest times, because the people that are needing their medicine are usually going right before work or right after work. We are a little bit slower during the day, but we don't stay open late, I would say. Even some of our busier markets, we close probably around 9 o'clock, I'd say. 9 to 10, and 10 o'clock would be like some of our busiest locations. And Ohio, for what it's worth, Ohio law allows dispensaries like ours in Ohio to be open from 7 to 11 p.m. and that's not what we're seeking because it's not prudent and it's not necessarily needed. If hours were to change and we see that there's a mad rush right before closing time, we would seek council approval to amend our hours accordingly to make sure that our patients are getting the medicine that they need.
What length is the lease that you guys will have on the building?
Typically, our lease agreements, without speaking specifically about this one, is a 10-year lease with a couple 5-year options.
At the end of
total,
it?
yes. So
Gotcha.
total, typically 20-year lease terms.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We like to be long-term
Yep.
tenants.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I would be happy to answer them, frankly.
We thank you guys for coming in. We know it's
Thank you.
a long haul.
It's not a problem at all.
Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Yep.
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate you
Have
guys.
a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're up to the section of
You
the
don't
police
have to stay
report,
on.
which I don't know if anybody has
It's up to
questions.
you. We'll step you.
In case some other questions come.
So, I'm here. Does anybody have questions for George on the police report? If not, the EMS report was provided on the desk. It came today. So it's written report. Moving into committee reports. I know the finance committee met, so Brian, if you want to give a.
So I gave you guys all a copy of the notes and then I wrote up the recommendations based on everything that we went through. I'll read through these real quick. So we're recommending the emergency passage of resolution 2418, which is for the amended appropriations in fiscal year 2024 to allow the village to add a line item in general fund for rents and leases in order to make rent payments in timely manner for the lease of the office building. This change does not affect the overall budgeted amount in the general fund. Other changes with the previous fund budgeted amounts or other funds made to cover current expenses without raising the original fund budgets of each fund, with the exception of the cemetery fund, street fund, water fund, and the enterprise deposit fund. So there's a reduction to the cemetery fund revenue and expense due to the amount of real estate taxes collected and sent to the Antwerp Cemetery Association. An increase to the street lighting fund revenue for the street light fund transfer covered by resolution 2024-22, which is also recommended for passage by the finance committee following the third reading in December. This transfer will allow the continued payment of street light electric bills in the fund until tax revenue is collected in 2025. For the water, increasing the water fund appropriations to allow for Administrator Davis to move forward with the start of the water auto read meter replacement project by increasing the capital improvement line expense in the water fund. So that's just to add start so they can get more of the meters and start working on that because they're kind of ahead on that. An increase in enterprise deposit revenue and expenses to accommodate additional revenue received by NOCAC, which was made for public assistance for low-income village residents to help cover utility bills. So that's all those lines. The Finance Committee also, we reviewed the 2025 temporary appropriations and following the third reading in December, recommend the passage of Ordinance 2024-15 to set temporary appropriations to operate until permanent appropriations are made. And also, we reviewed and discussed current compensation and now recommend Ordinance 2024-16 following the third reading in December, which will set compensation amounts for the fiscal year of 2025.
Okay. Anything else, Brian?
No, I think that pretty much knocked everything. Got it. I mean, you were there as well. Is there anything you need to add?
I think that covers it.
Okay.
Can we ask questions about it?
Sure can.
Okay, since this is here. The water operating fund went up by 75,000. That's for equipment?
That's for meters.
For only meters, or is there anything else? I noticed in the meeting that it said something about the splash pad chemicals costing $1,000 a week?
That was in the general fund for next year. That's in the temporary appropriations. It's not on the,
That's
not
not-
on this corrected.
That's not on here.
And that's not what it's gonna cost. That was
Okay.
the startup.
Okay,
So,
just to fill everything for
Mhm.
them. Okay. In the meeting, it sounded like we were
I said that's
allocating
what-
5,000 a month.
Well, we didn't know what it's gonna cost.
Okay.
Brian's been working, trying to get a contract in place for next year. So,
Okay.
and that's on the temporary appropriations. Once we have a better grasp on that, we'll get that corrected. We'll do permanent
Okay, so
appropriations.
that's not even on here.
No, that's on the temporary.
Okay. I also noticed there was a fairly long executive session there, but it doesn't say what it was for.
On the minutes that he passed out, I believe it says for compensation of employees.
No, it doesn't.
That's fine. And the motion to move to executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.
Okay, yes, you're right. You are correct. I misread that. Yep. Yep, thank you. That's all my questions for that.
All right, we'll move into there's no other questions for Brian or myself on the Finance Committee report. I guess we'll move into the Fiscal Officer report. First, we have the emergency reading of Resolution 2024-18. This is for the amended appropriations for 24. This is a resolution authorizing the fiscal officer of the Village of Antwerp to amend the appropriation and declaring this an emergency. Need a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll move we suspend the rules in 3 readings.
I'll second that.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules for Resolution 2024-18. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
and Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Why is this an emergency? Is, like, we want to be able to make it through the rest of the year, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So at this time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt. this
I'll make a motion to adopt 2024-18.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to adopt Resolution 2024-18. Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
and Dean Reister.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the emergency reading of Resolution 2024-19. This is to authorize the village to lease office space. Brian, do you want to address this, or?
Well, one of the things that we did, and I had one of the council members call me with a concern, and I appreciate the conversation. One of the things we did when we put this lease together was to try to figure out how we could mitigate the actual cost of the rent. And one of them is because we control water, sewer, trash, and those types of things, including his personal property in that, to reduce the rent by $200 a month. His bill averages about $400 a quarter. So at the end of the day, the village actually financially makes out by doing so. And that's why we did it. If you don't want that in there, then we'll go back and renegotiate with the landlord. We'll probably end up paying more by removing that. But that's where we're at.
Did you're already there though, right?
Correct.
How did we do that? If we
Well,
had it-
we told him that we would pay him for the month of September and October, which would give us a time then to create a lease agreement. Because we were
Was there no time between June and then now to do that?
June.
Well, that's when we had the meeting,
Had the meeting for what?
when Jan signed the paperwork.
That was an option. That wasn't a sell agreement. Why would we move on an option in June?
So what you're saying is we could still be in the building and not be paying any rent, because it is our building.
Yes, it's still our building.
So why are we wasting this money?
I don't consider it a waste.
Well, I don't care what you consider it. I do, as a taxpayer.
I think one thing Kevin pointed out, and you can clarify this, the amount of money we were paying every year for the depot wasn't that more than the rent we were gonna do?
What you're referring to, we discussed briefly at the Finance Committee meeting, is assuming the sale goes through of the depot with the income that will be generated from investing that money versus what we currently pay to heat and cool the depot building, the village will effectively, even with paying $800 a month rent, will effectively be about $1,500 a month in the green on that process, because the money, assuming the sale of the building.
And so, if this passes and it does not pass to sell the depot, then what? We wouldn't go through with the lease, or what's the plan,
He's gonna keep the office downtown.
no matter what?
I mean, I can go back to the depot.
Let me just
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm just asking what our plan is.
Well, I think we need to just,
Well, the concern I had with this, and is additional terms and conditions, the tenant to provide internet, water, sewer, and trash at the 122 South Main Street, and sewer, trash, and water at his home residence. Now, I get the perception that that's a sweetheart deal. You know, we do business with you, we'll take care of your bills. I don't like that type of reflection on me personally.
I mean, I understand your position, but that's not the case. First of all, internet does not cost the village anything. We receive that because we allow, and this is before my time, but we allow Metalink to place towers on our water tower. So the village offices get free internet service, okay? There's, the reason we're paying for the water and sewer and the trash at the office is that we're basically the only people using the building. I mean, there's one other tenant in there that comes in a couple hours a week. I mean, literally. And to turn around and have him pay for that and put it in our rent, and then we turn around and pay it, we're just swapping dollars.
So we would have to provide a 1099 at the end of the year for this income for him, or we might be assisting in a federal crime.
Well, we've talked to the attorney, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
I've got two things. I personally, I feel maybe we should look at renegotiating. I'm just not keen on the idea of putting somebody else's water sewer bill.
You don't have to-
Secondly, the big reason that the move was made, I try to visit once a week, don't always make it. You go out there in the wintertime, and they're sitting there with their coats and hats on, and you can see their breath, and it's, I wouldn't know where it goes to. If I had a job, I had to work outside, that'd be one thing, but they don't. And to bring that up to where we could have heat and a furnace and inside it, it'd be more than the building's worth.
Don't we have heat and a furnace in there now?
No.
There's no heat and furnace in the depot.
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Okay.
It's
It
like-
sounds like we just need somebody to come out there and engineer it,
Are they
right?
operational?
Yeah.
I'm wrong, I didn't think they were.
Okay.
Well,
I just don't think they work very well, because that was the problem when Amy was there too, and who was before? Sarah, yeah. No, I was thinking of the other
We can-
secretary in there.
we can table this. I'll go back and have a
April.
conversation with Matt.
April.
April, yes, thank you.
Do we want to just table it then? If somebody would make a motion to table it to renegotiate, or what do we want to do? Or we can try to move forward with a motion to suspend, and if that fails, then that puts it on the table. Entertain a motion to suspend the rules, 3 readings.
And you guys aren't comfortable with it, like obviously it sounds like everybody's kind of not comfortable with it, so I guess maybe we can renegotiate it, switch that up.
Say, let's just take it off the table and move on to the next item.
We table it until it's
They'll have it renegotiated.
renegotiated.
Okay, moving forward, we do have the emergency resolution 2024-20 to authorize the Antwerp CIC to sign a purchase agreement on the sale of the depot. This is a resolution authorizing the signing of the purchase agreement, deed, and closing documents by the Antwerp Community Improvement Corporation for the sale of the Norfolk and Western Railroad Depot building owned by the Village of Antwerp, Ohio pursuant to revised code 72128, and declaring the same an emergency. motion to suspend the three readings.
I move we suspend the rules of 3 readings.
Is there a second to Dean's motion?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of 3 readings on resolution 2024-20. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
No.
Okay, at this time.
Okay, I'm going to take my time now to discuss a few things.
This is not the appropriate time.
If this isn't the appropriate time, then it goes off the table.
What goes off the table?
This ordinance,
It'll be
resolution.
after there's a motion to adopt, I believe.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
Emergency reading of resolution 2024. Need a motion to adopt for 2024-20.
I move we
We already suspended the rules.
2024.
Can we have some discussion
This
first?
is the
about
time for discussion. I was right.
presume to.
Yeah.
Okay, now, we have a depot. Who took this picture? Otto Earhart did. Because we have a great building. You guys know it's a great building. Okay, now, it was in really bad disrepair. Really bad. Our ACDC and many others did a fantastic job and invested $400,000 to get it to where it's at today, or you wouldn't have anything to even look at. All of this happened because of donations
They got a
and
grant.
grants. Okay, there was a grant from the Ohio Department of Transportation or something. That's true, but it wasn't even near half. ACDC raised a lot of money. We had people who volunteered to paint it. They did a great job. I helped work on that, and we had a massive urban renewal in 2008. This is all documented. We even had people who donated the land for it. So I want to read to you what it says on the quitclaim deed. The property conveyed herein is being acquired by grantee for a public purpose, namely the reconstruction and rehabilitation of the structure and improvement situated on the subject property and/or the construction of replacement structures and improvements thereon, which will be used as public offices and a public community center museum by and for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio. In the event that the grantee decides not to use the property conveyed herein for the above stated purpose, grantors have a right under section 163.211 of the Ohio Revised Code to repurchase. Now,
Let me ask you a question.
no, we're not there yet. You can ask me questions in just a little bit. This deed was, there wouldn't even be a parking lot there. That's what this is for. Somebody gave their money because it was said it was for public purposes. Now, ACDC did a lot, just like they did for the splash pad in Antwerp, right over here at the park. What if somebody would come by here next year and say, can I buy the park for $1 million? We can sell tickets to the splash pad and make money. Would you guys be in favor of that? Because that's what this is doing. That's exactly what this is doing. This was with people like me and you and the ACDC who donated their lives and their money so that this could be made into a museum, which it was, until we locked the doors. It seems disgusting to me that we would do such a thing. And by the way, the rule in 721.03 says it cannot be by resolution, it has to be by ordinance. But I'm sure you know that. Now you can ask questions.
Well, you talk about where it talks about,
This is expired now. This is expired. That is correct.
Those
5 years.
5 years.
That is correct. I'm telling you what the intent of all these people. They didn't donate it so we could make a lot of money. It'd be one thing if we said, oh, 500,000, let's distribute it back to the people.
Well, that's one of the things that council has the ability to do with tax revenues.
We
that
also
they would
have the
generate.
ability to look at the intent.
My question is, the building is sitting empty. You've heard me before on my feelings toward the depot. I can remember all my life.
You can
No,
vote
wait,
how
I'm
you
talking.
want.
If the building is sitting empty now, what, and if we don't sell it, what are we going to do with it?
We're gonna have our offices back in there as was intended when we agreed to this.
So to do that, we would have to renovate it.
It's already renovated.
It needs renovated to be brought up.
It does need maintenance, there's no doubt. We could ask maybe the person who's in charge of employees of why it hasn't been maintained, like the library building too. But this is the people's building. It's not council's, it's nobody else's, it's the people, and it says so right here.
I'd just like to
I
submit
don't
something
care
that-
I don't care if you want another dispensary, we've got other great buildings. No problem. We didn't have any rule that said you couldn't be in there until August of anywhere else in town. And they're a lot cheaper than that one. But this one was donated by the people. And you can betray your history if you want, but that depot was here during the Reservoir War. Now, most of you don't even know what the Reservoir War was. But that has seen so much history that it is the people's. Now, you want to vote to sell? Fine, but it is under litigation, and I think that could cause another problem. So if you want to go ahead and vote, I'm done talking about it.
I was just going to mention that I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have come to me, and the question I ask a lot of them, and a lot of people have said to me that, have you ever been in the depot? And close to 75% of the people have never been in the depot. They don't take kids over there like kindergarten classes or first grade classes to teach them history. I understand the people put a lot of effort into it. I've talked to some of those people as well. I talked to Steve, good conversation with him, because at the beginning he was talking about the historical value and his father and him going there. So I'm not an Antwerp person. Obviously, I've only been here 5 years. Since I came, I've been involved, volunteered for, Lord, a ton of things. Been involved in this community as much as possible. So I would just say, like, again, that's just one thing to throw out there. If it was getting used every, year, semester, people were going in there and learning something from it, I'm all for that. But again, the only time I think people had been in there was to pay bills or meetings. So
Great.
So it was used every day up until we moved out. Completely utilized. It may not have been a museum, but it met the requirements of this.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Bryce. I'm just pointing out what the people have said to me. So it's kind of just throwing that out there while we're all sharing information.
Good.
My feelings on it is the fact that they are planning on maintaining the integrity of the exterior, which is the historical significance of the building is the exterior. The interior has already surpassed any historical reference from the last remodel. I mean, there's really nothing left in there that's of any super historical reference. I mean, the exterior is where the integrity is at, and it's still supposed to be remained. And I've had conversations with people that feel as though that the depot should probably not be sold, but I've had people that feel that it is the right decision just to keep moving forward and try to do something better for the community.
My conversations have been with people as they're trying to combine the dispensary with the depot, like they're two separate issues. And the depot is one thing, the dispensary is another, and you can have the town can keep the depot, and we can still have a dispensary if it's needed. They aren't intertwined, and this is my problem with selling it, because $500,000 is not going to go very far. It's the price of an engineer's stamp when we talked about the water plant.
Well, how else are we gonna get that money in this village? Just a question, honestly, like the tax revenue that it'll bring, all the money, the wages that they said $6.3 million in wages over the next 5 years for 20 to 26 employees. Like I know you're on what's going on in Antwerp often enough to see that there's people looking for jobs. So there's a lot of positive things to it too. So, and I've had a bunch of people say that they prefer it with something besides a dispensary, but also realize that there's not another gold mine that's gonna roll into this town. And we need water, the pipes, roads, there's a laundry list of things we need. So that's, again, just my 2 cents, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't disagree with you at all on the laundry list of things that we need. But those jobs would be created if everyone here would go and create a job, start a new business. Like I did. You invest several $100,000.
That's
Yeah.
not realistic.
And those have worked out really well, unfortunately.
I feel if we
Bryce.
pass on this, we will squander an opportunity to help the
If you
community.
buy this, you'll squander the money, it'll be gone, and you will say the same thing in a year. You'll be wondering, where's all this money? When we raised the water rates, we were supposed to get new lines and all this stuff. Has that happened?
You can't, you know for a fact that you can't do that.
Go ahead and speak, sir.
I'm sorry, I just want to just give you some additional context, Councilman. We would not be able to relocate to another location in Antwerp. The way that the DCC's lottery and site selection works out, we chose this location. We've gone through the lottery where the DCC has basically placed everyone's pins on the map. There's 293 adult use dispensaries total in Ohio now that have been licensed. If we were to change and not have this location, we would actually be subject to the DCC telling us where we would be allowed to go by regions throughout the state. And we do not believe that we're currently located in this region. So we would not be able to go down the street like you were insinuating. So I just wanted to provide that additional context. I also know, and I apologize for not bringing it up, but I know that we were talking about taxes and revenues, and I didn't bring it up, but Ohio's Office of Budget and Management back in September of 2023 issued a public memorandum to the Ohio Secretary of State's office that basically stated what the expected annual tax revenues would be for each adult use dispensary in Ohio. And I can give you a copy on my way out if you would like, sir. But essentially, what their number was is that if all dispensaries were equally effective and popular, the expected annual tax revenue stream for Antwerp would be $245,000 a year. That doesn't have any strings attached to it, can be utilized for any purpose by the council. So again, thank you. I just wanted to provide that context.
I think whether that would come to realization or not, who knows?
Yes, but that is, those aren't our metrics, sir. Those
Yeah.
are from the Ohio's Office of Budget and Management.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
And the water rates weren't raised, squandered. The water rates were raised, they had to be raised so we could grant to work at the water tower rebuilt, and we've got to rebuild, and through a grant.
Through grants, right, not through the
We're in
raising.
the process of working on the new water system, which is drastically needed.
And I was just gonna reiterate that with the additional revenue that we've received in the water fund this year,
Yeah.
after we've done the water tower and the engineering out there for the water treatment plant, that's where this process of starting, Brian's, they wanna start rolling out on the auto read meters,
Sure, I think that'll, we've already voted on
So
that.
you said it was being squandered, and I just want to
No.
make sure you were aware that that money's not being squandered, it's being utilized towards the projects
Sure.
that Brian had on the books.
Right,
No.
I agree.
All the revenue will be used for the improvements in the village.
So, initially I voted against this when it was an emergency reading. I didn't know, I didn't have any information in front of me, or I didn't have a chance to really research it. In my mind, I had, graffiti and neon lights and a bunch of people hanging around. Those were my concerns when I voted no. We spent some time, Steve and I, talking with these guys, hearing their intentions, all of their business plan, all those things. And, as much as I don't want this personally in the village, I feel like it's better overall for the village, the revenue that it's gonna bring in. So I just wanted to explain, my feelings on it and why I've decided to support it and change
Well,
my mind.
if there's anything else, before everybody starts giving their votes out, we probably need to have a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'm not giving a vote, I'm
Oh.
just explaining
Okay.
my position on it.
And that's my opinion too.
In regards to what you're saying too, we've always said we need businesses to come to the village.
Yeah.
And this is a viable business, and the downfall of the impact of this is that there's not very many choices except for the one that we're giving them for this depot to come here to help this community. Now, as much as I'd like to say, yeah, I wish we could maintain the depot and have them come into town, but that opportunity never came. And if we don't move on this opportunity, I feel as we're gonna miss out.
And we hear all the time, I mean, I know I do, I'm sure you guys do too, that, you know, we get blamed for the pharmacy closing, and we have no control over businesses coming in and whether they stay open or not as council members. But, you know, this is one rare opportunity where we can make a decision,
difference.
and we can help the village with
I mean,
that.
it may be a roll of the dice, but it seems like the odds are pretty good.
Yeah.
And if the money is squandered, this is where it's squandered at. And if we're no better than that, then we're gonna be being here. It's gonna be up to us and council where that money goes.
We have to have added revenue streams. Just as a side note, because Bryce has a habit of making comments as though nothing's getting done and we're dragging things out. Everything you do begins with engineering. Water plant, $600,000 in engineering before we can even have a set of plans completed. Now, they're down at the Ohio EPA right now being reviewed and being fast-tracked, which is a very good sign. One of the reasons, two reasons we raised we use the term water rate. That's not what we raised. We raised the cost monthly on water meters. First of all, you have to be at $30 to $35 per month on that in order to qualify for grants. When you go out and you seek grants for water lines and things like that, they'll come back and say your rates are too low and this is why you don't have the money. So, and I've dealt with that for many years. So that was one of the reasons. The second reason is that we're spending 2 guys a week to read meters. There's only 750 of them, but by going to the electronic reads, they can do it in less than 3 hours,
We already
simply
voted
by
on
driving
that.
around.
That's long done.
That has nothing to do, this is my conversation now. My point is that everything we try to do and everything we want to do, we do it beginning with engineering. So you look at Canal and Wentworth, that's, I think, $74,500. So my point is, you've got to have money. I don't know where you're going to get the money at. The alternative is you're going to keep raising the cost of services and fees because you have to be able to come up with that money. We can't keep going out and borrowing against our general fund because there's been issues in the past. So we have to, and this is an opportunity to be able to utilize this money to, even if it's $250,000 a year, and we can engineer a project every year. But I can't get grant funds without complete engineering because the grant agencies won't review it. They just say, well, when you have a cost estimate and the engineering done, come on back and say yes.
So Brandon, what is your position here on whether we should be moving forward or voting on this while it's under pending litigation?
My opinion is that there's been no injunction issued by the court, and so we're under no obligation as the village.
That is your official position?
To not move forward. There is no injunction that has been issued by the court.
It's under litigation though.
If the court has not issued an injunction, until it does, you do not have to hold these proceedings.
Okay. Then what about the CIC? We haven't had a legitimate CIC meeting in 4 years at least. It has failed the last 2 audits. What is going on there?
That's not
I have
our
asked.
business.
I have asked for the minutes. I have asked for the advertising of when these meetings were posted to follow the Ohio Sunshine
You're
Laws.
not asking the right people,
Yes,
Bryce.
I am, Jan,
Who
because
did
you're on
you
it.
ask? You asked me for the minutes.
I
don't
asked your
keep the minutes
president.
for CIC.
I asked your president.
Well, that's...
Now, why have we not, where are the meetings posted? Why are they not made public? As the auditor required back in both 2020's report, 2022's report, what's going on?
What
We
does
turn
that
this-
have to do with what we're doing about it?
Yeah,
You
Bryce,
didn't read it?
Bryce, your
This is-
attitude
No,
is
listen.
that it doesn't concern us for CIC.
It does. There's also a
No.
conflict here because you're on the board and you're on the board. Is there anybody else here on the board?
I'm on board.
Okay. You won't be able to vote because that's conflict.
So I can speak to this. There is no
Yes.
conflict. The Ohio Attorney General has specifically said that because village council members or elected or appointed officials of the village are required to serve on that board, there is no conflict of interest.
Okay.
And I do have a.
Give me a copy of it.
Yep, I can give you a
I
copy
would
of it
like
after
his-
the meeting.
I want you,
Right.
I would like
Now,
to ask you to
selling
stop
our soul.
speaking over people who are speaking and give them the respect that they deserve. No one speaks over you. If you want respect, give it,
I have.
okay?
Now,
I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
I just do not understand how you could sell your souls. How you can sell the history of this town. But you guys go ahead and we'll do this in court.
Let's move ahead.
We'll take care of this in court.
I move
Can we
to
entertain
adopt
a-
resolution 2024-20.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt resolution 2024-20. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt resolution 2024-20. Dean Reichner,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yeah.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Absolutely not.
Thank you, council.
Moving on, we have resolution 2024-21. This is the first reading. This is a resolution adopting the personnel manual for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio, including any and all amendments thereunto and all applicable statements attached thereto for calendar year 2025.
We didn't get a copy of the personnel manual in our packet.
There's been no updates to the manual since last July. It's the same one.
As
every
in
year.
2 months ago, 3 months ago last year?
July of '23.
3.
Okay.
So there's been no amendments to it since the last time it was adopted. It's just moving forward with, and this is just the first reading. So if you would like to see a copy, I'll be happy to email you a copy.
Yeah, please email me an updated copy.
Okay. Next, we have the first reading of resolution 2024-22. This is a resolution authorizing the village fiscal officer to transfer $15,000 from the general fund to the street lighting fund. Next, we have the, let's see where we're at here. First reading. This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-11. It's an ordinance amending section 2 of ordinance number 2000-19, establishing a schedule of fees, charges, and expenses and collection procedure for zoning permits, amendments, appeals variances, conditional use permits, and other matters relating to the administration and enforcement of zoning in the village of Antwerp, Ohio, and regulating the fees paid to the zoning inspector for services.
I would like that rezoning application fee dropped for the average person.
I believe this come from Gabe, was the recommendations, the recommendations from the zoning
Yeah.
appeals board. The only change that's being made, if I'm correct, is the,
Right, that's what I meant. The filing
The
fee
bank.
for the appeals board went from $60 to $500, which is
Yeah, that's the
an
change.
egregious amount for the regular Joe wanting to contest a government decision. It's way too high for the average citizen. From $60 to $500 is crazy.
The reason that was changed is because the last time we went into it, we found out we had to have a lawyer on site at the time, as well as somebody had to take notes, which the fee of the lawyer, he's presumed would be somewhere between $200 to $300, depending on who it was. Plus, you're gonna have a transcript, gonna have to pay them to do it. And so rather than the village taking the hit on the chin for that fee, we figure the person who's filing it might as well take the hit themselves.
Yeah,
That was the
that
reason
is
for the
way
increase.
too high for citizens.
First reading.
of the first reading, so I think we can, move forward. Moving on to the first reading of ordinance 2024-12. This is an ordinance prohibiting duplexing or triplexing of existing single-family homes in the village of Antwerp, prohibiting existing duplexes from being converted into more than 2 units, prohibiting existing single-family homes from being converted into multifamily apartment buildings, and requiring permitting and approval for construction of the new duplexes, triplexes, and multifamily apartment buildings in the village.
Where did this come from?
This is one that George brought to the attention that council voted to have the previous solicitor draft an ordinance, so.
I thought we sent it to the zoning and planning for them to look over.
I believe that the minutes state that they asked to be sent, or have,
Could we have this sent to the zoning and planning? That's kind of their purview.
Zoning and planning is for zoning property as far as locations in the different zones.
I understand that.
This is more of a regulation to regulate how the properties are managed, about the same as what we did with the
Right.
marijuana stuff, so we're not actually moving any zoning parts or rezoning property themselves.
Well, it's also for uses in that code. And it just seemed, there's a lot going on
I don't
here.
think it's doing anything to the zoning though, it's just limiting the fact.
No, I think it is, but for the planning part. I mean, not necessarily there's just a lot going on here, and what George had mentioned was something about garages too, and I noticed that's been removed.
Well, there's a single family residence wouldn't be allowed to have a garage.
We're turning
apartment.
garages into an apartment. And I see that is not in here anymore.
That was part of what George said.
That's right. That's right, and I don't see it in here anymore. But I guess we can let people come to us and tell us what they think, because there's a lot in that.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
It says that the village has noticed an increase of conversions. Do we know how many? I mean, it's that on both the top lines.
Sorry, I mean, I think, is George, are you back there?
No.
Do you want me to stick my head in
I know he had mentioned, I thought he had a number, and there was some more that were looking into it, but I could be wrong. He might have just been.
I would think the gate would,
there?
because
Please call Brian.
I would think they have to get a zoning permit because they're changing square footage.
Well, I think that would be the same thing with the Bryce mentioned the garage. You're still converting a single family residence property into a multifamily.
Yeah,
Whether it's the garage or you're splitting it into a duplex on the house, I think.
or even adding on to the house.
Yep. Well, George isn't available. Do you want to move forward to the first reading on ordinance 2024-13? An ordinance 2024-13 is an ordinance amending ordinance 2022-24 and ordinance amending ordinance 2018-17 and ordinance increasing the water rates for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio, specifically amending sections 2 and 5 of the ordinance number 2018-17 to maintain the current minimum charge for each tap effective January 1st, 2025.
So in essence, there'd be no increase in 25.
On page 7 of that ordinance, the first chapter, says a user, consumer claiming a homestead tax exemption must provide proof to the village administrator that the user consumer qualifies for the tax exempt in order to receive reduced water rates. Does anyone know what reduced water rates that applies?
Yeah, it's already in here. It makes it 90. It's one of the, we got like 4 different categories.
Yeah, it says homestead and stuff, but
Yeah.
I've never had anybody
I think it's 35 instead of.
show me that. And like when we talked on the phone, I think Governor Strickland in 2007 made a change to the Homestead Exemption Act of the ability to qualify. If you qualified before the statute went into effect, was okay. If you were not qualified after it went into effect, I'm not even sure you could even qualify for Homestead Exemption Acts anymore.
You have people that
Yeah, you can qualify on an annual basis through the county.
But did you have to have it prior to 2007? Because he made a change, and I think that you could requalify each year if you had it in 06. But when the law went into effect, you couldn't be a new person that would qualify.
That I can't answer. It's not no.
I know there was a big change because it was a big deal.
Is there a way that we could just kind of unify because we have our pricing set at, if you're a renter or a set income person, but you don't own your place, you pay more than the person who owns their house, even though they're both residents. Could we make it the same so everybody's treated equally? I would like to see that, simplify the accounting. I mean, I can understand non-resident and resident, but when we have a $15 difference per month, or per tap fee, based upon whether you own your house or whether you're on a fixed income renting at the trailer park, it kind of hurts those people.
Well, the trailer parks aren't charged, so it doesn't hurt them.
Or other apartments that have their own meter that they're renting. We have a rate for them that's higher. And I would like to see it just all the same for resident versus non-resident.
I would presume, I wasn't here when those rates were set, but I would presume that was probably set that way because renters don't pay real estate taxes, so therefore the village does not collect any other revenue from them, except for the fact that they're paying water and sewer fees. Would be my, I mean, like I said, it was before my time.
I
but
think you're
would-
exactly right.
I would
but-
say that's probably why that was
But
that way.
I'm pretty sure renters are paying it through their rent, their property taxes. I mean, it's not like the landlords are giving it for free.
Let's back up to George while he's here until he gets called
I
out
had
again.
a question on your, single-family duplexing and triplexing ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, it says increase of conversions, existing family homes to multifamily homes. Do we know how many?
I don't.
Do we also know, you had mentioned people converting garages, but that was not in here. Is that something that should be included? If you want it for review?
I thought the way the ordinance was worded, it would cover it, but, I mean, it's up to you guys, that's pretty much said what I got to say. You know, the aftermath of what I think will happen if it doesn't get stopped, none of us will be here. These kids will be here.
What, so who enforces the ordinance and what are the penalties? Because I noticed that's not on here.
That'd be up to council to decide and incorporate that into their ordinance. I would probably imagine it would be an unclassified misdemeanor, which probably make the fine whatever. You could have either, have the zoning inspector enforce it, or have the chief of police or the administrator.
Any other questions for George on that ordinance? If not, we'll move into ordinance 2024-14.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, George.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-14. This is an ordinance to establish the time and place of the regular meeting of the council for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio, for the calendar year 2025. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2024-15. This is an ordinance setting temporary appropriations for 2025, which shall be in effect until permanent appropriations are set, or April 1st, 2025, whichever shall occur first. And then we also have first reading of ordinance 2024-16. This is an ordinance establishing compensation for Village of Antwerp, Ohio for the calendar year 2025. Moving on, I don't know if there's any old business. If not, we move into.
I have one thing on old business. Mr. Steiner wants things scanned. I have reached out with the Department of Administrative Services, and I've been in contact with a company by the name of Access. I have been working with them to try to get a quote to scan. We have 24 journals back there, and I'm getting a price to scan the journals so that they can be stored on the cloud or on a server, whatever we choose to do. So I'm waiting to hear back from them as a first step. My guess is it's going to at least $10,000 because they said banker boxes were $250 as an average, and a book is a lot harder to scan. You have to take it apart, scan both sides, put it all back together, and stuff. And I'm having them returned, I'm not having them destroyed. So it adds additional cost. But hopefully next week I'll hear back from them.
Okay, speaking on that, and thank you for doing that, Brian. How do we get our minutes on the website? We have a minutes section, but it's blank.
They get posted every month, to my knowledge. Val posts
Yeah.
them. I send them the Val every month. I'll
They
check.
won't get posted until, this meeting won't be posted till next month, until
Until they're
council approves them,
I-
even though they're a public record.
Maybe the checkbox on WordPress is not being selected to go
It
into the
could be,
minutes
if you
file.
click on minutes, it's blank.
I'll see if Val
Yeah,
can get
'cause
that
she-
figured out. And
Okay. I just wanted to bring it
I
to
don't
the
do the
attention.
posting, that Val takes care of it, so
Yeah.
we'll look into it, see what we can figure out.
Have we found a replacement for Val?
We have. We hired a young lady by the name of Tiffany Straley, who coincidentally used to work for the Paulding Progress.
Mm-hmm.
So she started today.
I have something for old business. It's not really business, but something I thought I should have brought up last month. It was on our outstanding payments. And there's two line items here. One is the Zuber Welding Fabrication LLC for a sum of $7,410. That was for the bridge that was put in from the park to the south parking lot. I just want people to know, they see these items, it's posted online, but they don't realize what they're looking at. And the one below that is Superior Soft Wash. That was to pay to have the library pressure wash.
Soft wash.
Soft wash, yeah.
A lot of people didn't realize it got done, or they thought it had been done by volunteers, but the village did have that done with taxpayer money. So it has been done, and the village did do it. So I just want to bring that up.
We also striped the parking lot as well.
Thanks, Bill.
So, thanks for your time. I just wanted to let people know that what we were doing.
Any other old business? If not, we'll move to new business. Which,
Just some quick updates. Access engineering will begin, and the odd thing is, a lot of the stuff, everybody's called access. So access engineering will begin doing survey work here in the next few weeks to take a look at Main Street and then that small piece of canal where it goes and then turns on to Erie. What we're looking at is what we can do about the road height, having it lowered, looking at what is underneath the road, and if we take and we dig up the road, what needs to be replaced. We're at a point, and I told ODOT, I said, you come in and put one more coat of asphalt on this road, and you won't be able to determine the height of the road from the sidewalk. You'll be able to drive right on it, because the road has been built up over the years. So we're looking at getting the engineering done, and then the hope would be is to get grant funding where they would come in and they would basically tear the road out. They'd take a full depth reclamation, they'd go in and replace and repair and add water lines, they'd put in new sidewalks and curbing and stuff, and then ODOT would come back through and they would do a complete repaving of that section and all of Main Street out to or about the end of right here. So that's one thing that we're working on. The water plant engineering is 90% complete. I talked with engineers this week. The Ohio EPA typically does the engineering review in-house in Columbus. It was pulled into the Bowling Green office. That's a positive because it indicates they're expediting the review. The EPA has reached out to the engineer and said that they do have some funding available. I told them I'm interested in grants, I'm not interested in low interest loans. I mean, you may end up with a combination of both, or you get grant forgiveness or loan forgiveness. But anyway, so it's in the EPA. Kevin sent them the check for the cost to review the plans. And so hopefully that, within the next 60 days, maybe it'll be complete and we can start the process of trying to come up with funding. Canal and Wentworth is at 97% complete on engineering. They're at, I didn't make the note. I know they're 80% complete on, they're 97% complete on the survey, 80% complete on engineering. So that's moving along, and their deadline was November, the end of November. And then we talked about the water meters. We have an opportunity to place a big buy and reduce our costs on the water meters, which will help us buy more water meters. So we're getting ready to do that, and you guys are doing a good job getting them installed. So that's all I have. Any questions?
When the engineering is completed on the Wentworth Canal, what timeline are you looking at before they actually start physical labor?
Whenever we can afford it. So, I mean, once the engineering work is done, then what I'll do is I'll identify what grant funding is available by department. I probably will go back to a group, it's called SIG, and it's a group of many different agencies, federal and state, that come together quarterly and meet. So when you make a presentation, you make it once instead of going to everybody at this table and making a presentation. And then at that time, you say, hey, Brian, how much you got? How much can you give me in a grant? I can do 500,000. You just write it down, you go around the table, and that's one of the ways you can get it done. So once I have all of that completed, then I'll start pursuing the grants. But like I said, until you have engineering in hand, I mean, you can have conversations today, can say, hey, yeah, let us know when you have an engineering done and stuff, because your low to moderate income index is at a point where, we think we can help you out, but they make no commitments.
And secondly, are the guys gonna be doing any street repairs as far as potholes? We frequent the town about every morning, and there's...
Well, we had M&M Asphalt come in and do potholes in the summer. Now, we may have had more developed, especially with the number of water main breaks and stuff. So if you just want to let me know where they're at, I'll get them taken care of.
Get a list for you.
Any other questions?
Is Iris still working?
We don't use it.
Last we tested.
The last couple of times we tested it, it didn't work.
It didn't work?
No. And I know Val was working on it, but we've never really, we only had 102 users on it, so.
Were we looking at a new system for that?
I don't remember, but
it's been a while.
I think we was just talking about seeing if we could get it up and going and figuring out what's wrong with it and why it's
Well,
not
there was a
set up.
software that we were looking at using that would implement, and we would be able to actually do it from the software in combination with billing and everything and stuff, but it turned out that the software was pricey.
It was not fiscally,
Yeah, it was a little,
out of the range of where we were at on budget.
What about Schaefer Road? Is there any way of getting that started, even though the governor hadn't signed anything?
well, it's the president that hasn't signed anything. The state announced today that the SCIP program will be put on the ballot in May of 2025, and that is a program that the state has done since 96, 97, and it gives the legislator, the House and the Senate, the ability to bond debt in the state of Ohio to the amount of $250 million annually over a course of 10 years, so $2.5 billion. And it is specifically for infrastructure. And during fiscal year 2017 through 2025, Antwerp received 3 different grants for almost $1 million out of that one program. So one was Canal of Maine, one had to do with work at the sewer plant. It may have been water plant, but it said sewer
It was
plant.
the Germs, wasn't it?
Might have been.
Because I think we still have an outstanding loan on part of that project.
Yeah, and then there was another one, I forgot where it was at, that was the bigger one. So anyways, that would be one of the items that I would submit for grant funding, would be Schaefer Road. Obviously, the water plant would be another one that I would submit under that program, but that's not until May of 25. That will not be done as an emergency, so that won't be in effect until 1st of August of 25.
There's a line, Councilman Steiner, are you finished, Brian?
I am.
Councilman Steiner had submitted a recommendation, right, so I'll let you take care of.
All right. I do not believe, even though I made a motion for it and I voted for it, ordinance 2024-06 was valid. And there are numerous reasons that I laid out here. And it was brought up to me in the zoning and planning commission meeting, it was mentioned there, it wasn't specifically to me, that it did not go through the committee. And I thought it had, and I don't think it's valid because of that. And I gave Brandon my reasons on that. But one of the things that Brandon pointed out in his response was that it passed by 3/4 and therefore it was legitimate. However, it didn't pass by 3/4. And so I would like to say that that resolution, or excuse me, that ordinance 2024-06 is invalid for that reason alone. And I thank you, Brandon, for pointing that out. It voted with 4 votes yes, 1 vote no, and 1 vote abstained. And under Robert's Rules of Order, it says for an emergency ordinance to pass in Ohio, it requires a three-quarter vote, and that's what Brandon wrote, of the members of the legislative body. And a council with 6 members, 3/4 of the council would be 4.5 members. So rounding up means 5 votes are needed to pass an emergency ordinance. And in this scenario, 4 votes in favor, 1 vote against, and 1 absent. The emergency ordinance did not pass. And I would either like it to be noted on the minutes, or that we have a resolution just declaring that it didn't. Because I agree with it, but I agree it has to be done properly.
It was passed by 4 votes yes, 1 vote no, 1 vote abstaining, so there were only 5 voters. Is that correct?
But it's of the whole council, it says.
Was the whole council present?
Yes. So, correct? Okay.
I'm trying to recall that vote. I thought it was 5 yeses and I abstained.
No, I
I
haven't
said
seen
no.
the vote.
Mr. Smith
And that
and
was on the
Dean,
emergency? To
Yes.
suspend the rules?
yes, it was an emergency.
So that was just to suspend the rules, was that? I don't recall.
I haven't seen the voting, so I was told it was passed by the 3/4 majority.
Right, that's what was written, but it hadn't passed. It was by the total body. It was only 66%, not 75%.
And I can check in to confirm that the abstention doesn't have an effect, just to make sure. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was thinking that the emergency passed to suspend the rules, and then the vote was 4 yeses, an abstain, and a no for the actual passage,
That's correct.
which would require, if you only need the 3/4 to pass as an emergency, or to suspend the rules. But then after you suspend the rules, then I think you just need the 2/3.
No,
You still gotta have
You still got to have
you
3/4.
still have to have 3/4. I mean, I am for what it says, but I'm for doing, I have to put the rules above my feelings.
Should we just let Brandon look in and see if that, or are you gonna check to see?
I mean,
if
I've
that-
got the minutes here if you want.
yeah, and if you'd like, Kevin, if we
Dispensary on Main Street.
Yes, yeah.
draft something.
Draft something. So
Yeah,
everybody
I think
okay
Smith
with
was
that?
right, and Vice Chair was right.
He said he'll look into that if the abstaining, and if something needs to be drafted to correct it. Brandon can take care of that. Is everybody on board with that?
Mhm.
All right, any other new business? If not, we'll move to the mayor's report.
The month of September, total amount distributed to the city was $1,827. To the state was $637.50. Indigent drivers, $25.50, for the total of $2,490. Councilman Reister has requested to be removed from our finance committee, and at this time, I would like to appoint Jason Franks to fill his spot in finance. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As a parting gift for your services, sir.
What about a welcoming?
Welcome.
I never did.
We've been notified that the Paulding County Economic Development Banquet will be November the 12th. Very, very nice meeting, good meal, and it's held right here at Grants. We get 2 tickets, but more can be obtained if we want. But we need to let Kevin know how many want to go.
I mean, we can get tickets at the door, but I think they prefer to know ahead of time so they can make sure they have enough meals. So if you guys can get back with me maybe by the end of the next week so I can let them know how many we'll have attending. I mean, like I said, we get 2 tickets to start with, but if there's more from council that want to attend, we can purchase additional tickets.
Trick or treat will be Saturday, October the 26th, Saturday before Halloween. The firemen take care of all this, and I want to say they do a wonderful job. Their parade lineup will be at 2:30, parade will be at 3, their judging will be at 3:30, and then we'll have trick or treating in the village from 5 to 6:30. Okay?
5 to 6:30?
5 to 6:30. We want the kids off the street before dark.
Let Steve home before dark.
Yeah,
Anything else?
that's all I've got.
A motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Motion by Gene, second by Steve. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.